Rejected Moon. Episode 7. What Wakes. Written by Mia. The speaker taught me my own power the way you teach a child to handle a blade, by first making absolutely certain I was afraid of it. Most of what the Moonborn could do is lost, she told me, the first morning, in a high stone room open to the sky where the moon could see us. Burned out of the world with the bloodline. I have 3 generations of secondhand memory and a great deal of guesswork, and you have a gift with no teacher, which is the most dangerous thing there is. So we go slowly, we go small, and every single time, before you reach for it, you will say the cost aloud, until it lives in your hands and not just your head. Her white eye fix me. Say it now. Every time I burn, I ring a bell the severed hear. Again, until it's true. I said it 100 times that week. Every time I burn, the thing that ends the world lifts its head. And then, saying it, I learned. Small things at first. The way the ember had come to my palm in the croft, I could call light into my cupped hands, cold and silver, and hold it. I could find the warmth in a living thing and feel it, the bright, steady coal of a speaker's stubborn old heart, the flickering ones of birds. I learned faster than the speaker liked. That frightened her. I could tell, though she hid it behind sourness, that a girl with no teacher and 19 years of catching up should reach so easily for things her grandmother had needed decades to hold. By the 4th day, I could make the cold silver light dance, split it, send it crawling along the floor like a living thing. I could stand in the dark training room and know, without looking, every heartbeat in the tier below me, the way you know weather. And once, only once, I reached too far, too fast, greedy with it, drunk on finally being good at something after a life of being nothing, and the light leapt out of my hands wrong, hungry, and cracked a slab of ancient stone clean in 2 with a sound like a shot, and the bell in my chest tolled so hard the speaker flinched, and 3 lamps in the next room guttered out. That, she said into the ringing silence, white-faced, is why we go small. The severed don't hear your mercy, and your malice differently, child. They only hear how loud. Be loud enough for the right reason, and you'll still have damned us all. Power doesn't care why. That's the first thing the old Moonborn learned, and the last thing the world ever let them teach. And one afternoon, when a young watchwolf was carried in with a wound gone bad and the healers had given him up, the speaker watched me feel the failing coal of him and said, very quietly, "You want to. I can see you want to. So I'll tell you the price before you do, because no one told your mother. You can pour your fire into him and he'll live. And the bell you ring doing it will be the loudest you've rung yet, because mending is harder than breaking. It always is. One boy's life, paid for with a step closer to the end of everything. That's the Moonborn's whole inheritance, child, in one room. Now choose and mean it, and never let anyone tell you that choosing is simple." I healed him. Of course I did. I am my mother's daughter, and my mother gave until there was nothing left and never once regretted it. The boy opened his eyes and his mother wept, and far down in the deep of me the bell tolled long and low, and something vast and patient in the dark turned over and listened. And I stood in the high stone room, having saved one life, and understood, bone deep, that I had just made the whole world a little more expensive, and that I would do it again, and that this was exactly how they would spend me in the end. Not with chains, with wounded boys. Ronan found me on the bridge that night. It had become ours, the high bridge, the one place in the glittering city where no one wept at me, and he didn't ask how it had gone. He'd heard. The whole city had heard. The Moonborn had healed a dying boy. The hope was real. The lamps had burned a little brighter. He just came and stood beside me in the cold star wind and was quiet, which was its own kind of knowing. "They're going to want me to do it for everyone," I said. "Now they've seen. Every wound, every fever, every dying thing in Nightreach. How do I say no? How did anyone ever say no to that?" "You don't say no." His voice was low. "That's the trap, and they don't even mean it as one. That's what makes it perfect. You say yes and yes and yes, because each single yes is right, until you've rung the bell 1,000 times for 1,000 good reasons and woken the thing that eats the world, one act of mercy at a time." He turned to me. "Which is why you're not going to be left to decide it alone. You have a king, Wren, whatever else I am to you. Spending you is a thing that goes through me first, and I will be a wall, and I will be hated for it. And the day they hate me enough to go around me is the day we'll know we've lost." But until that day, he stopped, and something shifted, the careful coming off him the way it kept coming off the men the moon sent me. Until that day, you are not a resource this city draws on. You're a person I'm keeping. There's a difference. I keep finding it matters more to me than the war. And then, because the moon kept sending me men who said true things in dangerous moments, he kissed me, there on the high bridge over the last free city, the wind off the cliffs wrapping us, and it was nothing like the bond catching under the choosing moon, no struck cord, no rope of light. It was just a man and a woman who'd each crossed a great deal of dark to reach this exact cold, beautiful place, choosing, with their whole frightened selves, to be glad of it. I kissed him back. I let myself, for the length of it, not be the last of anything. Not bait, not hope, not the moonborn, just Wren, on a bridge, being kissed by someone who'd told her he'd lose the war before he'd lose her, and half believing it, and letting the half be enough. When we broke apart, he rested his forehead against mine, and for a moment neither of us was a king or a weapon or the last of anything. We were just warm and breathing and absurdly young for the weight we carried. "I'm not going to apologize for that," he said. "Good," I said, "because if you do the noble retreating thing the other one does, I'll throw you off this bridge." He laughed, a real one surprised out of him, and I filed the sound away the way I filed everything I might not get to keep. "The other one," he repeated. "Greywater." "I didn't mean you did. It's all right." His thumb traced my jaw. "I'm not a fool, Wren. I know you carry him. A man doesn't put his body in front of a council blade for a woman he's stopped loving, and a woman doesn't go quiet the way you do when his pack comes up. I'm not asking you to be unhaunted. I'm asking you to be here, with me, when you're here. That's the only treaty I want. And God help me, that was the most dangerous thing he'd said yet, because it asked for nothing, and so I'd have given him anything. I didn't tell him that being asked for so little was the surest way anyone had ever found to make me want to give everything. He'd learn it the way they all did, too late to be glad of it. It would have been a perfect night if the horns hadn't started. They came up from the eastern watchtowers, 3 long notes and then 3 more, and I felt Ronan go to stone against me, and down in the city the lamps began, one by one, and then in a rush, to go out. "That's the muster," he said, already moving, already the king again, his hand closing around mine to pull me with him. "Iron gray on the eastern road. A lot of it." We came off the bridge into a city transforming itself in the dark, the free people of Nightreach moving with the awful smooth speed of those who have rehearsed their own siege 100 times, and a scout was waiting in the high court, gray-faced, blood on her, and the speaker was already there, and the council, and the news was the worst it could be. "The warden didn't run home," the scout said. "The warden went recruiting. Every Argent chapter within reach, every pack alpha the council has a leash on. They've been massing for a week since her eyes went to me, since the light at Greywater. They're not here to put out one Moonborn anymore. They're here to put out Nightreach, all of it, the last free city, while the excuse is standing inside our walls. She swallowed. There's more. They came through Greywater on the way. They, the Hollow, wouldn't say where the Moonborn had gone. Wouldn't or couldn't, but they wouldn't, and the council made an example. The room went silent. The floor of my stomach dropped through the cliff. "Kale," I said. My voice didn't sound like mine. "What did they do to Greywater?" The scout wouldn't meet my eyes, which was its own answer. The Alpha held the line at the boundary path, bought the rest time to scatter into the hills. He's alive. The Warden wants him alive, as bait for you. Everyone knows the Moonborn lit up the sky for him once. They've got him. They're bringing him here, in irons, at the front of the column. She finally looked at me, and there was pity in it, the pity I was so tired of. The Warden sent a message ahead, for the Moonborn, by name. It said, "Come out and kneel, and ring your bell for us where we can collect it, or watch the free city burn, and the Greywater Alpha with it, and know you could have stopped both with the gift you're so frightened to spend." The council erupted. I stood in the middle of it, distantly, while the free city of Nightreach argued about me in the third person. The Moonborn must, the Moonborn cannot. We did not take her in to spend her. We did not take her in to die behind her. And I watched the thing the speaker had warned me about happen in real time. Good people, frightened people, beginning the slow arithmetic by which a person becomes a resource. An old fighter with a scarred throat said the thing the rest were only thinking. One girl's conscience against the last free city. I'm sorry, King. I'm sorry, child. But that is not a hard sum. And Ronan rose, and the room went quiet, and he said, very softly, "It is the hardest sum there is, Harrow, and the day you find it easy is the day you've become the thing on the ridge. She chooses. Not the council. Not the Warden, who is across an army using a boy in irons to do our deciding for us. Her. That is what free means, or we should put our own lamps out now and save the council the walk." He defended me. Again. A wall again. And I loved him for it. And I also saw, clear and cold, what it was costing the city to let him, and understood that Ronan's wall could only hold so long before holding it broke either the city, or the king, or us. I went back to the bridge alone, after, because I needed the dark and the wind, and somewhere no one was watching the last of their hope decide whether to spend herself. Below me, Nightreach armed itself in the dark. Out east, beyond the ridge, an army of the thing that had hunted my mother was bringing the man who'd rejected me in chains to use as bait, and waiting for me to do the one thing the speaker had spent a week teaching me to fear. To burn, big, bigger than the circle, big enough to break an army, and ring the bell so loud the severed would not just lift its head but rise. Every door was the wrong door. If I did nothing, the free city fell and Kale died and the council won, and my mother's whole sacrifice was for a line that ended in a coward on a bridge. If I burned, I might save them all tonight and wake, tomorrow, the thing the Moonborn were made to stand against, with no Moonborn left standing but a half-trained girl who'd spent her whole inheritance in one night to save people she'd known a week. And under it all, the worst small voice, the one I was most ashamed of, Kale's in chains. They're bringing Kale. And you'd ring any bell in the world to get him back, wouldn't you? Even knowing it's exactly how they plan to spend you. Even now, even after, even with Ronan's kiss still on your mouth. The moon kept sending me men, and I kept being unable to let any of them burn, and the council had done their own due diligence, and they had found the seam in me, and it was shaped exactly like a boy I'd been taught to love by a pack that didn't deserve either of us. Ronan came to find me. He didn't tell me what to do. He just stood beside me at the rail, looking east at the dark where the army was, and said, "Whatever you choose it knowing." The speaker saw to that, the cruel old woman. "So whatever you decide on this bridge tonight, it's yours, and I'll hold the wall in front of it, whichever way it falls." A pause. "But decide soon, Wren, because they'll be on the ridge by dawn." And out east, faint and final, as if the world wanted to make absolutely sure I understood the shape of the trap, a single grey-water howl rose from the heart of the council's distant camp, hoarse and defiant and unmistakably Kale, telling me, the only way he could from inside his chains, the thing he knew I needed to hear, and the warden was counting on me being unable to obey. Don't come. Don't spend yourself for me. Let me burn. To be continued. That was episode 7 of Rejected Moon. If the moon has you now, the next episode is waiting. Subscribe so you don't lose the trail. The complete book is available on Amazon, and early episodes and bonus chapters are on my Patreon. Links are in the description.
I'm Mia.
Thank you for listening.